Hi friends, in this video I'll tell you about the pros and cons of living in Russia through the eyes not of a foreigner but at least of someone who has lived more than 10 years in the United States of America and has been living in Russia for the last 5 years. I was born and raised in Russia, lived here until I was 21, then emigrated to the United States for 10 years and returned in 2019 to the homeland and so-called return, and so I have something to compare it with. This review will be a comparative review. This is by no means a truth in languages. Some were good, some were bad. Everything is very relative, but in my comparative analysis, you might appreciate aspects of your life you don't notice more. I'll be picking at my notes a bit and maybe do things differently. In the future, we'll have to make another series of videos on this topic as there might be some questions and topics to open up in more detail. The first thing I encountered when I arrived in Russia after America, what had a sharply positive effect on me was the absence of racism, absolute absence of racism. Suppose when I left for the United States, I thought Russia was the most Russian country in terms of black people, but after living in America for 10 years, I realized that this is not the case. That means I realized racism doesn't exist in Russia. At most, it's just some curiosity on a daily level, nothing more. Because in the States, I encountered discrimination at the workplace and in business. Well, in everyday life, it's clearly noticeable and felt right from the airport. Different states vary, but separately, I have thoughts on racism as follows.
Small bills, these are huge.
That means bills in America. A bill comes every month, everyone's afraid of it. Bill for the phone, for electricity, for water, for gas. Even compared to salaries, they are very tall there. For the phone, the bill can reach up to $100. For gas, for electricity, the factory can come up to a total of $1,000. Plus heavy taxes, both on property and income for businesses, etc. It's significantly easier in Russia with these.
It's a big plus in planning.
Cost of living in Russia for now, it's lower, more accessible, even considering the difference in salaries. Another aspect is the safety on the streets. Americans in general, in most of America, people don't walk on the streets. Consider big cities like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago. It's rather unsafe out there on the streets. Everyone has seen those videos. There are vagrants, homeless, mentally ill people walking the streets. And if someone is just walking, especially if it's a young woman, it can be dangerous. In Russia, I've been to various places, in different cities, in different districts, but never felt even a hint of something. There's no more stuff like mugging or aggression. That's long gone. If we take, for example, my childhood, then these moments periodically happen here and there in different parts of the city, in different parts of the country. But now that's largely a thing of the past. It's very rare. The overall level of crime on the streets is much lower than in the United States. Even if you look at the statistics, this is a big plus because I have kids and it was crucial for me to ensure they grow up in a safe and comfortable environment. And just like that, Russia is the astronaut for whom this environment was recreated. The next point is the professional law enforcement system. I know many will write that it's lawlessness there, the police, just look it up online. But those are just fairy tales about a white bull because I'm speaking from my own experience. I faced lawlessness in America. When out of 10 white people, 1 black person, me, yes, was handcuffed and arrested for no reason. Total discrimination. It again might relate to racism but also to police lawlessness. And you can't say or prove anything. There it's not about who is right, but who has more rights, who has more money, the better lawyer. That's the one who's essentially right. I've encountered traffic cops here several times for document checks. The utmost polite and pleasant attitude. utmost respect, especially from the traffic police, surprised me because in America you sit and fear holding on to the steering wheel. Follow the instructions closely, don't ask unnecessary questions. Well, anyone who's been to the States can confirm. Here, they're like old friends to you, it's more relaxed. Forgot the registration there, no big deal, we'll check by the number now. Look, and that's the attitude I encounter everywhere. Some citizens even abuse such favorable treatment by law enforcement, they openly defy them. They get bold, offensive, and pushy, not valuing the work. These traffic police officers who stand there in the frost and in the snow and in the rain, they still stand in some places at posts and control traffic. This is definitely a plus. Such an attitude of the police in Russia really wins you over. The next point is the freedom of movement. What do I mean? Life in America is in a way quite comfortable. Yes, for people with disabilities, yes, there are special ramps, lifts everywhere. It's very easy to move around, but it's laws against trespassing, meaning boundary violations, and in general, the area is fenced off. It reminds me of the game GTA. Whoever played it, that is, there's a certain territory, and beyond it, beyond the world's limits, you can't go. Well, you can't, for example, go for a walk in the field, go mushroom picking, that is, or go hunting there or somewhere else. Everything is fenced off everywhere. It's someone's territory everywhere. Just walking down the street, if you consider Central America, and you're walking around the house somewhere, walking in a private area, someone might come up and ask, now, what do you like here? What are you doing if you're walking there with a stroller? What happened to you? Got kicked out of the house, or are you crazy? Some problems arise, so the environment, it clearly defined in a social context that you can go there, you cannot go here. In Russia, it's simpler with this. Here, people wander wherever they want if they're not blatantly breaking any boundaries. And the borders here are fenced with fences. I don't know if it's a plus or a minus, depends on who you ask. But essentially, in my view, it's a plus because it allows people to go almost anywhere that's not fenced off. In cities, villages, and all over the world. To move around freely, you don't feel any fear of being charged with trespassing, calling the police, and being told that you have violated some boundaries. Here, it's probably hard to understand for those who haven't been there. In the States and in Europe, where everything clearly gets better. Want to take a walk? Go to a park if you want. If you want to run there, go to the treadmills. If you want to go there, go there. Clearly, less freedom in this respect. It's advertised, maybe because I'm used to it from the start, so I like it. Well, see for yourself, to each their own. The next point is the ease of communication. Many who come to America say how friendly Americans are, always smiling everywhere. They don't smile at everyone. They only smile at those who pose a threat. Typically, that is to show they're safe. Imagine getting into an elevator and there stands women. Naturally, she smiles to show that I'm safe. Don't do anything to me, nothing like that. She's scared. And her specific reaction is to smile and show that they well disposed towards you to avoid provoking any conflict. Here is the main reason for American smiles. And in Russia, it's simpler. They smile if they want to, and if they don't, they don't. Well, in principle, to make contact, to have a conversation with anyone, much simpler than in the United States. There people until the very end.
Where it blows.
Well, here we are. Some kind of catch. They suspect a catch. Yes, they smile. Yes, they say basic phrases, ask questions. Where are you from? There, nice, nice. But if there's some nuance in
Politics or religion or something like that,
immediately close, immediately start celebrating. In Russia is a mixed bag. Some might say they don't want anyone prying into their personal life or asking questions. The lines there, it's something else. They may have recommended or mentioned, but it's part of the culture, is the nuances of social life. So there's nothing bad in it, in my opinion. I see it as a plus. It's somehow clearer and simpler to live when people express themselves more openly. Your own thoughts, your own emotions, even if those emotions are negative, it's still more pleasant than when they keep something behind your back. The next point is advanced technologies. You might be surprised, that all technologies, it progresses, evolves in Silicon Valley, in California, but I'll tell you that, yes, indeed, they come up with them there, but for some reason, they don't implement them, maybe because implementation costs money or
state-related.
Permits and authorization should be universal. The banking system is still in its infancy. The same goes for delivery systems in small towns and marketplaces, which are also quite low, except for Amazon. In principle, competition is much less, and the consumer's choice is much less in Russia with this at all. Everything has long since changed. Markets are open. Whether you want in China or in Europe, order, receive, despite sanctions adapting within a few months and the possibility, compared to consumer goods, it remains much higher than in the United States. The speed of receipt, dollar, is also much higher than in the States. The banking system will, from what I've heard, is one of the best in the world, definitely several times better than in the States. Here's Sberbank. Yes, it's expanding in every direction. This isn't an advertisement or propaganda. I'm just comparing it to the likes of Bank of America or Wells Fargo or with other banks. It's very convenient, saves time, and most importantly, nerves. Because of these checks, these banking hours, it doesn't work. Basically, the person refuses, it doesn't go through, something else, there were difficulties. Here, of course, there's biometrics and everything is developed at the highest level. Next moment, that's affordable and quality healthcare. Yes, you heard right. Indeed, in America, just like with technology, with medicine, it exists to trust in the fruit cities for a lot of money, very high quality, better than in Russia, but it's available to very few people. For those who are stars, millionaires, and so on, mainly worldwide. I know what I am talking about because I have a family of doctors in America, and my father has his own clinic too. And the level of services provided is significantly lower than in Russia's. And the doctor's level of training is lower too. Even if they wanted to, fear of lawsuit stops them from providing quality services. Many things they shouldn't do. They do more than necessary, not doing what needs to be done. That's a topic for another discussion. If you're interested, leave a comment with specific questions and I will dive deep into this topic, especially regarding healthcare. In Russia, I encountered this here. Glad with medicine, I go to a private clinic, honestly, state medicine, unfortunately, it is, but privately quite at a good level, despite the fact that I still do not live in Moscow. Another point, natural and high quality food. Food is here much tastier, higher quality. Again, just my opinion, comparison, and it's even the only indicator that it is. They have a shorter shelf life, meaning they go bad faster, which suggests they are more natural. Milk lasts a week in the fridge without spoiling. The same goes for vegetables, fruits. They can sit there for weeks, nothing happens to them at most, they'll dry out here. It quickly goes bad, it has taste and smell and certain properties unlucky. Not always, but we'll touch on this later. But overall, it's easier to find quality food, even not in super expensive supermarkets like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods equivalents. Here, you can usually buy quality natural food at the supermarket or market. Another point is the water. We can of course link it to food, but we'll adjust separately. It's not about the mode of travel. I always pick up medieval pure water. This isn't everywhere, but everyone living in villages has the opportunity to drill a well. Hook up some pure drinking water for yourself. No need to use sewer chlorinated water. You can get your quality water resource. Living in the countryside is a big plus because, after all, everyone in America buys water from a tap of poor quality. get it from the ground, from a glacier. Well, not everyone can say that. It's more of an exception. Using some sort of osmostrator, so something is also an option. As a rule, not everyone makes use of it, as many live in rented housing, with half the population renting. They drink what's available. They can't afford it in the store. The nuances. So it seems like we're just dealing with water here. Water is free. You can get it for free and inexpensively. Let's talk about the downsides now. The main downside is the benefits I've mentioned. They're diminishing every year. That is, Russia is following a Western path of development in all respects, despite the West's criticism and condemnation, but things are moving in this direction. There are fewer and fewer people on the streets. People walk less, communicate less, socialize less. Bills are growing, consumption is increasing, and so is the credit load. Other. All these drawbacks that Prova talked about America, not racism starts to show up here too. As for racism itself, it starts to manifest as well. But regarding those from the southern regions of Russia and the neighboring countries, they turn into the very people from the black neighborhoods who live right in around Moscow, outer Moscow Ring Road, beyond Moscow Ring Road, and they are starting to create those very ghettos, even on the outskirts of Moscow. You could say ghettos are being formed because of people from the neighboring foreign countries and how others feel about them. Labor migrants, right? It turns from some minor discrimination into an attitude of a Russian sort. I just see a lot of comments where they are aggressively inclined against these migrants. They become those very blacks that are in America. This, of course, does not upset me, but unfortunately, this issue exists. Think for yourself how to fight this. Another downside of living in Russia is the cold climate. It's not that it's cold. Norway is cold, Scotland is cold too. It's just the climate itself, atmospheric pressure, central happiness. Russia, well, the atmosphere here lets in little sunlight, so it's often cloudy. People get sick everywhere. All sorts of cold-related illnesses, viruses, flus, colds, and so on. In terms of climate, it's certainly not the best region I've lived in. In the south, by the way, it's a bit better, but that's a completely different topic. Here are the main things I said. As I said, I tried my best, honestly, but subjectively share about these nuances. And the most important point I will repeat is that all those disadvantages, for you to understand, they are decreasing every year and something needs to be done about it. At least they need to be acknowledged for being there, because currently people who don't leave Russia and see or they leave for a short while, they don't realize what it could be. What we have here now, this is a plus. When we lose that, then when they remember and say, oh, it was good, because in America the same path was taken. I spoke with the elders, the old men. In America, they say the 70s and 80s were absolutely the best time. But this was still at the dawn of the internet. And then Russia just started this, probably with the Americanization, probably with the introduction of the iPhone, with the appearance of, well, with mass implementation, that is the internet. People, because a computer with internet, even if everyone had one, has been around for a long time, well, primarily used by the youth, but with the emergence of iPhones and the internet, nowadays every granny is online. She reads information. She's no longer interested in what's happening in her yard, in her life. She's all there now, not to mention the youth. And that's why all these pros turn into cons. Write what you think about it. Share this video with friends. See you in the next one. Bye.